Basically, back in 2019, I was at the Arnold, knew quite a few people in the cage. They had a free spot open. I ended up doing it. I didn't have any of my lifting gear. I think I deadlifted in like work boots, like Timberland boots, and ended up almost pulling 800 pounds for the first time. You know, fast forward 4 or 5 years and ended up getting invited. Actually, Dan Green called me up and asked if I wanted to be part of the cage, and yeah, that's an opportunity that no powerlifter wants to turn down. So, and got to not only get redemption on that 800, but pull 915, and the energy in the cage was just incredible. I'm not a very expressive lifter, as a lot of people know, and a lot of my friends were giving me shit for how hyped I got after my deadlift, and that was not me necessarily just putting it on. It was just feeding off the energy of everyone there. I mean, honestly, even like on the platform, I don't get super elevated. I mean, a lot more, I guess, like locked in, kind of here on business kind of mindset. Every once in a while, I'll kind of like after a final deadlift, I'll kind of let go a little bit and, you know, show some emotion. But yeah, the cage was totally different. It was just all energy. Having like people hanging on the cage, you know, screaming your name is unforgettable experience. Yeah, so my plan is to deadlift again. Probably just gonna try and eke a little bit more out of what I did last year, which was 915 pounds, 415 kilos, I believe it was. So if I can hit another 2.5 kilos or 5 kilos on top of that, I'd feel pretty good. I'm about the same amount of weeks out from a competition, so I should be around the same kind of strength level at that point. So if I can be a little bit ahead of where I was at the cage last year, then I've gotten stronger over the last year, which is the goal. So, and then just overall looking forward to kind of feeling that energy again. You know, I'm used to training kind of here in this isolated room, and it's just a totally different experience being in front of a crowd. And a lot of the times when I'm lifting, even in competitions, I'll have like my mom or my girlfriend come to the competition. They'll ask like, "Oh, did you hear me yelling for you?" I'm like, "No, not really. I'm kind of locked in. It's just kind of me in the bar." But at the cage, it's, you know, I do feel the presence of everyone around me, and just kind of feel that energy. So, and yeah, it's just a different experience, and I really enjoy it.
I mean, at first I kind of broke that news that I like injured myself to the team when they told me that I was going to lift in the cage, which was super exciting. They said, you know, you're lifting in the cage, and I said, that's awesome. Sorry to break it to you, but I just tore my adductor like 3 days ago, you know? And it's tough when you do events and things like that because you have to set back work. I mean, like, this is my job, right? So it's like I have all these events lined up, and then literally a few days after I set up all these events, I have an injury. Last year was fantastic. I lifted 1,006 pounds in the animal cage. I was able to, I think, have the heaviest lift of that event. I think that's probably the heaviest deadlift I've ever done.
Let's hear it, guys. Let's hear it for everything you've got. Everything you've got. Let's hear it for him, folks, at the 1,000-pound deadlift.
I'm thinking to go for a really crazy rep PR, so like still super heavy weight, right? But try to get it for more reps than I've ever done before. So initially I thought, you know, maybe I could only do 500 pounds, but I do it for as many reps as possible, like 20, almost 30 reps maybe. That would be insane. It's pretty humbling to be the youngest at all these kinds of events because usually, you know, these guys are super experienced. They deserve to be there. And I have the same amount of thoughts about myself. I think I deserve to be there, and I think I have a lot to offer. I'm the youngest on the team right now because there's potential, and I believe in myself enough to say that because I have came this far. But I look up to everybody that lifts there. Like it's so cool to see everybody kind of show up in that way. The energy there, I've been to a lot of different events, and there's nothing like the animal cage. The energy is just way different. I'm confident in my abilities, and I think I can do something that has never been done before. And if you can display that on a stage like the animal cage, that's like one of the best stages you could do for powerlifting and strength. It's just like, there's nothing like it. So I think when I was younger, I turned to the internet and the people that really liked what I did as like I put all my focus on them to make them happy and stuff, but I don't do that anymore because there's so many things on the internet that you could just get caught up in, especially when you have a lot of negative comments, or if you have a larger influence. I mean, you just have, by definition, more people that are looking at you, commenting about you. In terms of the negative, like, people just don't even know me. The criticisms and all that, I only look at the people that I really care about. You know, I like to make the people that have done me right in my life, I like to prove them right. I don't like to prove haters wrong. I mean, I used to do that, but I think as you grow and as you mature, you just want to make the people that love you and want you to see good, you just want to prove them right, and you just want to make them happy, because that's way more important.
Since OSG, I have torn my Achilles on the second day. Honestly, rehab's been going very well. Of course, there's those tough days where you're just like, it hurts to even put pressure on it. There's those days I'm stuck on the couch with my foot up. Those are frustrating. But good days like the past week have been, it's moving a lot more. I'm getting a lot more pressure out of it, being able to push more on it. So the rehab, every week, I feel like it's getting a lot better than the previous one. Well, in preparation for the Arnold, it is a lot of touch and go, especially at the beginning when we're like, should we do it? Should we pull out? Can I pull this off? Like, all of those things are always in the back of your mind, especially when you have a bad day. You're like, am I going to get up on that stage and embarrass myself? But then that's kind of where good coach comes in. He sits you down, clears your head, and he's like, hey, we know what to do. We're going to heal you, rehab you, and you're going to get up on that stage and do the best that you can. And every day it's just, okay, we can do this with my foot. Yes, okay. We're just kind of testing it every single time. And today was a very good day for that. Test it out, add some weight, see where it goes. So I'd say training, it's right on track to where I need to be. Coming up, I'm looking forward to the most is really just seeing what I can do, because you can do it in training, and like I'm saying, the healing, there's almost a full month left of healing that I can do, and it's really just getting up there and seeing what I got. So I'm like, here, fingers crossed, like in here, you know you can do it, but if the body has an injury, you still don't know what you're capable of. So I'm excited to get up there and see what my body will actually do. In the cage, I'm kind of the same way. I'm excited to see if I can do the same thing I did at TT's doing the bench, or if I can maybe up it, because all the excitement and your adrenaline's running, and so that could also be something you can excel your expectations for any event. So I think I'm just excited to see what I got come the Arnold, honestly.
Solid, that one even went backwards.
Yeah, I felt like I could correct it.
Yeah.
With injuries, you know it's going to get you one day or the other, because we do some crazy stuff. We push our bodies to the absolute limits, and it's really naive to think you're going to walk away scot-free. So when the first injury happened, yeah, you're disappointed, it sucks, but you're kind of like, it was bound to happen. It's taking it in stride. When you know something's going to happen, you're mentally prepared for it, so it doesn't shatter you when it does. I'm going to get hurt, but it's going to take a lot more than that to take me down. Going into both the Arnold and the cage, the mindset honestly stays the same. Go according to plan, listen to your coach, and do the best you can. Leave it all out on the floor. So no matter what you're doing, whether I'm benching or I'm doing a full strongman show, that core of it all, do your best, keep your head focused, keep your mind straight, and you can't do better than your best. Like, I tell people that all the time. If you have regrets, that means you didn't push hard enough in training, at least in my opinion. But if you leave it all out there on the floor and you walk away, you're like, well, that's all I had, so there's no regrets. So go in every event thinking that, and it should stay in the same mindset. I would say right now in my career, I'm just as fired as I was in the beginning because now it's on a different level. Before it was trying to sign up for every local show, get all your experience, get as much under your belt as you can. And now I'm picking and choosing very high level shows and seeing where I place among women who are sometimes 100 pounds heavier than I am, like legitimately. And so that takes an element to a whole different realm where you're like, okay, they might outpress me by like 50 pounds, but what do I got? So that still gets my fire going, is seeing how big they are compared to my size, but I can keep up with them. So that's exciting all within itself.
Cool thing about the cage is it's almost that it's not like a competition. There's a little bit of an expression element to it. The cage lets you do kind of more like feats of strength. And then there's also stuff that I think is relevant across disciplines, from like powerlifting, Olympic weightlifting, strongman, CrossFit. So there's stuff that you could do that might be impressive to just a powerlifter, but then there's other things that you might do where as a powerlifter, you could impress somebody who's an Olympic weightlifter. I think the only thing I would think of as far as the evolution of the animal cage, I think at its core, it's like the same. And that's a good thing because it's basically a way to showcase some just really awesome lifters. It's a really good way that I think the sport kind of has outreach, and the sport can kind of like show people who powerlifters are, or even just who the various like athletes that Animal has are. When I started, I had already watched the Animal Cage, and the people I watched lift in the animal cage seemed like just like unbelievably, strong, to where you're just like, this guy is on this like kind of more of an inhuman status, I guess you could say. To then get a chance to go and participate, it was like I wanted to uphold a sort of like, I guess, the legacy of the cage, of kind of like what I thought of as my first impression. I wanted to make sure that, I could make that impression on somebody else, in my own way. I think that's just continued on. So as each sort of new generation of like animal lifter or lifters who lift in the cage get to do it, they kind of uphold the legacy for the animal cage, as opposed to maybe like rewriting it or evolving it. What makes it so cool is that the people who do it, they really just like love to lift. And so getting to display it is what people recognize. The things that get me excited about lifting have changed over time. When I was young, I wanted to lift more, to be huge. That was kind of what I thought about it. But once I really got into powerlifting as a sport, I really just wanted to get better, and I wanted to win. The thing that's always been the most powerful motivator, I think, for me is when I can sort of imagine what I'm capable of doing, or believe that I'm definitely capable of lifting this other weight, and I haven't done it yet. That creates this almost like a multiverse of like, in one world where I have this potential to lift something, and then the reality of the current world where it hasn't happened yet. And those two things create this like tension, and that stress is like very motivating for me. It's like a obsession to, say, well, I need to realize what I'm capable of. And now that I'm like 42 and I've definitely had a lot of injuries and falls down those kind of mountains, there are certain things I'm not as like, focused on, but there's other things that I still feel perfectly capable of achieving. That would be like best milestones for me. Yeah, that's really the most exciting thing. Sort of that belief that I'm capable of something that excites me.
Good. Up, 1. Up, 2. Up, 3. Up, 4. Up, 5. Let's go. Up, 6. Does it feel tired? All right, cool.
I think having sort of the like a presence where I'll have people who will come up to me and tell me that, because of some videos of me or some interviews of me that they watched, that it kind of changed how they approach lifting, or maybe it made them believe that they could, regain a strong, healthy back when they'd had a lot of back injuries. So those things are always really cool, when you can think that like, I just lift because I love it, but then somebody else might have had a life change that was impacted by what you did. And that's something that I'm pretty excited about. There's been times when somebody might come up and say, hey, I saw you do that lift. It was really impressive. And in my mind, I'm thinking, I know. And I know it's impressive because the reason I wanted to pursue this goal was because I knew that it excited me. I've seen a lot of lifters all over the place, so when I see something that I feel like would be really exciting, I have the sense that like it's not just me that would be excited to do it. It's like it compares to what other people would do in a very exciting way. So I've always pursued things that get me very excited. I guess there's a validation in just the sense of like I want to prove to myself that I can pursue the things that I know I'm capable of and not sort of just like give up on those kind of things. So.
Back in high school, like my senior year, I was doing powerlifting, kind of looking up things online and seeing all these people lifting these crazy weights in the cage. And obviously in high school, then you just kind of get excited and start training the same way. And then one thing leads to another, and you're just always watching the people lifting in the cage. Definitely nervous, but I'm also very excited just being somebody from a small town in southeast Kansas. I mean, these are just things you dream about. You don't ever think they're gonna actually happen. So to actually be able to say like, I'm gonna get a lift in the animal cage in my lifetime is pretty cool. In my lifting career, I'd say that this will definitely be like the top of what I've done. I mean, just overall, like experience wise and in my head of like what this is to me, like I feel like this will be by far the coolest experience I've had in my lifting career. For me, I'm just excited, like the most excited for the ability just to show like what I can do, like I belong here. I feel like for me, it's just the actual like opportunity to be there. I was pretty strong from an early age. Like whenever I was in middle school, we didn't deadlift. We did like hang cleans and squats and bench. And I mean, as a middle schooler, I mean, I was, able to bench press 225 and hang clean 225, and I could box squat, which I mean we didn't do regular squats really, but I box squatted like 500 pounds as a middle schooler. And so for me it was just always like powerlifting. I thought I was always strong, from just then. And then in high school I kind of did all these sports, was an all-state athlete in the sports I did. And then my senior year I went to state powerlifting, won state powerlifting, and then I went to college for track. Kind of just fell off, like I'd lost interest in that and kind of was going through a dark time in my life. I just kind of wanted to give up on everything, and so then kind of got back into working out. And then one thing led to another. I just started, like this was how I could cope with things, and I realized really quickly like, oh, like kind of good at this stuff, like I'm actually getting pretty strong. And fast forward to a few years later, I started competing and total 2,000 pounds at 22 years old. And then this past year hit the 1,000 kilo mark, and the rest is history. It's just everything just kind of stuck. And yeah, I found out real quick, like I said, it was the way that I cope with everything in life. Like it's what I need. I'm hoping to go for a top end single. I mean, I did 931 back in September in a comp. So I'm hoping my big goal is, to go hit 950 plus on squat, raw, obviously, and sleeves. So that's the big goal. I mean, that's what I'm pushing for, is to go for a top end single. It's gonna be cool to meet all these people and lift with these people, but I think at the same time, like I said, coming from a place here where, nobody does anything, or they only have the dreams of doing it, it's gonna be cool to actually get to go and have my moment type thing, like actually show that I belong with these people.
I mean, first and foremost, the big thing with the cage is a community of people. right? And see everybody kind of come together and support each other is a big thing that powerlifting and weightlifting is supposed to be about. So kind of return to that base root was really cool to see, you know, all these famous people you look up to kind of being there, supporting you, cheering you on, you know, and finally actually stepping in the cage is a big one for me, right? I've been on the other side of the cage for many years, you know, hands glued to the cage, not moving for most of the day, just watching what's going on. And to be the one on the inside of the cage now, looking out, being like, I was right there. You know, that was really, really cool. There's nothing like the cage, right? You can do a big meet and hit a big lift, and sure, there's a crowd there, and that's fun, right? Or you can be at a gym and do an expo lift in front of all your friends, and like that's really fun too. But when you bring together like the family the animal has, when you bring together the fans the animal has, and all the lifters, and you're part of it, it's not just enough to be strong, right? You have to promote that sense of community. You have to promote that sense of, you know, togethership, brotherhood, and sisterhood. And to finally be part of that, it's like, hey, I did what I was supposed to do. Not only am I strong, but I actually fit with what I've been trying to fit my entire career. So getting that nod, going in there last year, not being able to hear for most of the day afterwards because it was so loud in there, was just something that was super cool. Then you watch some of the other lifters going, and they're pushing themselves to incredible depths that they probably couldn't have reached before, you know? And to be part of that is a huge honor, obviously.
Let's go! Let's hear it for him, guys. 870 on Justin. That was easy. You like that shit? You worked out, let's go!
I'm nervous. Last year, I kind of fell with the 975 pounds on my back, right at lockout, so I didn't quite get the lift. So obviously, you know, the repeated fear of failure is obviously there, but that's the only thing, right? It's just competitive nerves. You know, I'm trying to squat 1,000 pounds. It's a lot of weight. You know, there's going to be nerves behind that, but I'm just excited to see everybody again, get back to that sense of community, and see the fans again. Like, it was so cool. Like, for my send off on my last squat, everybody was screaming. You know, I could barely hear myself yell, and I yell pretty loud, you know? So I'm really excited to get back to that and put on a show. I'm very blessed. You know, I have my fiance and my daughter who are with me for basically every training session and are huge supporters of what I'm doing, you know? Like, I want to see how far I can go in this. You know, I'd be a liar if I didn't say I don't want to have the heaviest total of all time. And that's a big undertaking. You know, I'm still 300 pounds away almost. You know, I have a long time to go still, and to know that I have that support kind of eases that. And, you know, having my daughter with all my training sessions, she's sitting there cheering me on louder than anyone. You know, it's kind of like, how can you fail when you have that type of support? It's very difficult. It's one thing to sit here and say, you know, I want to have the heaviest total of all time. I'm not going to count my career as a failure if I don't get it, because, you know, on the other side of things, being a full-time coach and having, you know, the roster that I have, I want, you know, those people to kind of be my legacy. I want what they to do to be my legacy in the sport, because, you know, you can be strong or whatnot, but for me, it's about being a good person, right? And watching my athletes go out and succeed and be respectful, watching my athletes go out and, you know, fail, unfortunately, sometimes, and still be respectful and understand there's more to life than you just, you know, 3 white lights on a board. Yeah, I can be strong and I can do all those things, but eventually I'm not going to be this strong. I'm going to keep coaching after that, and that's really what I want to have my legacy be known as, is, you know, a leader, you know, a friend, a coach, a good father, a good husband. That's when people think of Justin Zottl, that's what I want. I fully believe that I was intended to do something special in this world, and nothing's kind of pointing me to stop yet. So I owe it to people who can't. I owe it to myself to see this through. And so when I think about all the people who supported me, I think about how hard I've worked for this. There's not really an option to quit at this point. Yeah, no, I think I got to keep going. I don't know another thing to do at this point. Like, I'm so close that I think if I stop now, I think I'd regret it later. You know, I don't want to be one of those guys who say, oh, what could have happened? Limping around on a walker and being like, oh, you know, 1,000-pound squat probably wasn't the smartest to do, rather than, you know, kind of walk around in good health when I'm older and be like, oh, well, I wonder if I could have. You know, that's the one cool thing about powerlifting is, like, at any given point, there's a weight you can't do. And if you plan hard enough, you take care of your body, you take the right supplements, you train intelligently, and you put time into it, there's very little reason why you can't do it later. I think that's why so many people gravitate towards it, because it gives them some element of control in a world where we don't really have that much control. But the beauty of it, honestly, at this stage of my career is I can also step back and just enjoy everything else that's going on where I couldn't when I was younger. You know, I can enjoy those moments, you know, when I'm not training now. No, I don't have to obsess about it anymore. And that's a big part of growing up in the sport too, is realizing like, hey, like you have to have a life outside of this. And that's why it is so important for me to be so involved in my daughter's life. That's why it is important for me to help as many people as I can help, because that's what like I said, that's what I want my legacy to be.